Hi all, Pipes here again, clocking in with another video on the project I'm currently making called Abandoned Cinema in CryEngine. Today what I want to go through is just a quick tutorial really on how I'm going to create a base texture for wood on this building here, the Bridge Inn. Now it's part of the diorama scene that I'm creating, and it's going to be to the left hand side of the cinema. So what I wanted to do is just bring in something that would kind of fit nicely within that sort of scene, and this is a pub which is in Sheffield and it's called the Bridge Inn, although I don't think it's a pub anymore. I think it's flats, unfortunately, so no ale there. But what I really like about it is it's got these black wooden strips on the side which gives it that period look, and it's this wood that I want to recreate today. And I just thought I'd show you how I'm going to go about it. I'm going to be using ZBrush to actually get the normals. So let's dive in and let's have a look at how we're going to do this. So this is the I've already done a test, and this is the end result. So as you can see, it's quite nice. I've put like a paint layer over the top. This is just very basic. There's no rotting underneath which needs to be added and doing the specularity correctly, but you can get some sort of idea within 10 to 15 minutes. You can pretty much get to this sort of point, and it gives you a good basis and with a nice normal map, and I think it looks quite nice. It should look nice on the building. So how do I go about this? First thing to do is I created a document in Photoshop, and it's 2048 by 2048. Always start large, because even though this probably will not be the size of the texture that goes into the game engine, it's better to sample downwards, because sampling upwards it just gets all blurry and messy. So start as high as you wish. I mean, you could start this at 4K if you wish, but I normally start around about 2K. And I went on to CG textures, and here we have just some rough wood, just a plain rough wood. It's quite a large texture. I went for the largest one I could get. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a normal map out of this. So the first thing we'll do first is I'll bring this across, and I'm just left clicking. I'm just going to bring this into here, hold down shift and bring it into the middle. Now rotate this. So what I did was I want to get quite a bit out of this texture, so I kind of halved it like that, and then hold down Alt and bring across another copy. If you hold down Alt and you're on that layer, it'll make a duplicate, as we can see here. Right. So what I did was I just moved them around. I clone stamped some parts out of it using the clone stamp here, and just made it slightly different in places. Okay. And then what I did was, if I merged them together, obviously I'd have filled in this entire piece. I'll just grab this across just to demonstrate. Okay, so we've filled the entire piece. I'm going to go to the marquee tool, and I'm going to crop the image. So now we've just got that there. You could use the crop tool as well, but I don't really just do it like that. And then we're going to filter this, and we're going to use offset. I'm going to offset this horizontally and vertically. Probably not so worried about the horizontal as such, but more the vertical, because it's going to go up and down those beams. So once we've done that, we can see that there's a difference between them there. Again, clone stamp and just clone stamp that out. Take a lot longer than I'm doing here. And then once you've done that, filter, offset, bring it back. Now in normal tutorial style, here's one I did earlier. So this one, tiles fine, there's no problems there. Okay, and ignore that there, but let me create a new folder and call it diffuse. Now if this was physical base lighting, that'll be albedo, which is some of the new stuff that the studios are looking at the minute, something that I've been looking at as well, but we're going to do it old school style. So this is a diffuse, and this is the stencil that we're going to use. Right, okay, so I'm going to save this stencil. Alright, you can't quite see the save boxes on my other monitor, but I'm going to save this just as, in fact I'll bring this across. I'm just going to save this into a folder and call it wood-base tutorial underscore diff for diffuse. Okay, so now we've saved that. So this stencil tiles perfectly. Now you're wondering how I probably got from having the colour to get it into this black and white, because what we want to do is we want to use it kind of like an alpha. Once we get into ZBrush, it'll all make sense. So what I did there was I just went to adjustments, I went down to where is it, gradient map, and then I just selected the gradient there, and there we go. So now we've got some darks and we've got some lights, so we're going to get quite a nice transition when it comes to looking at making the normal. If you wish, you could also do a Control L, Command L on a Mac, and just brighten or darken the levels, but I kind of like it as it is. Okay, so I'll just save that again. So we're saving that as wood-based tutorial.diff. Now let's go into ZBrush. Okay, in ZBrush, all we need to do here is, let's have a look, create a plane, because in effect we're just going to make a tiling texture of 2K. So I've got a plane here. Okay, I'm going to go into edit mode. Now if you look at the document size, it's 2048 by 2048, so we're staying in proportion with everything. I'm going to change this material. I'm going to just choose a skin shader. Don't know why, but I like to use that skin shader, and I just give it like a mid-grey colour fill object. Okay, so at the minute we need to turn it into a polymesh 3D. So just go to there, make polymesh 3D, and that will allow us to give it some subdivision levels, and we can add UVs and everything to it. So we want to have a UV map because we want to map on that wooden texture exactly to the corners, so it tiles. So it's a 2K map that we're still looking at there. We don't want any borders at all, and we want to do a UV planer, so it'll just do, all that's done there is just made a one big polygon UV that's perfectly to the edges. Right, so we've created that. Yep, everyone's happy there. Now what we can do is we can go to geometry, and then we'll divide this upwards. I've turned off smooth because I don't want the edges to actually round off. I just want to divide it so it keeps nice and straight. As you can see, active points. I'm going to take it to about 1 million. Okay. Next thing to do is go to layers and create a layer. This will give you some flexibility when you're adjusting the actual normal map strength. And the next thing then is to go into surface. So we'll go to noise. Okay, it'll come up with this box, and then we can go alpha on or off. So what the alpha will be, it's going to be the find it, where is it, pub textures wooden base, the tutorial one. So that's what we just created. That's that grayscale image that we brought in from Photoshop. So that's the alpha on and off. The strength, first what we need to do is click UV, so that then it ensures it tiles up to the UVs of the texture onto the polygon plane. It'll all make sense. So we're going to increase the strength a little bit. Okay, there we go. I'm going to bring it to like about there and go OK, and there we have it applied to there. Now I'm going to turn off the smooth UVs because I don't want the edges to have any sort of padding, because if you leave that on, it starts to blur these edges, and we don't want that. So now I'm going to apply to mesh, and now the mesh will have, let me just zoom this out, bring this in. Oops. I'm just pressing F to frame it. Now at the minute it's quite bumpy and a bit noisy, but what we can do is, if you ever get this where it's not actually going up to the borders, just zoom out a little bit, then press F to frame it, and then bring it back. This is why we created this layer, because we can bring it back a little bit. So I'm just going to click on there to stop it from recording, and then I'm just going to bring this down. As you can see, you can control the strength that you want. So at this point I normally go across to here and choose the normal RGB material, so now we can really see. Now this looks really messy at the minute, it looks really noisy and bumpy, but don't worry, it will rectify itself. But as you can see, I'm controlling the strength of it. I can bring it way down, I can bring it way up. Now that sort of level's not too bad, but what I normally do is bring it up so it looks a little noisy, about 2.8, bake that down, so that's now baked down. I'm going to open up this tab here, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring on the render preferences, because now we want to get this out back into Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is going to go to render properties. I'm going to give it the top quality details. I'm going to turn off shadows because we don't want any shadows in the normal map. And then I'm also going to go to anti-aliasing, and I'm going to bring that all the way up. So now, watch this. When I press the best render, it's going to take out a lot of that noise, and it's going to look quite nice. Now this is such a quick way. I've not even sculpted anything. All I've used is just the surface noise using the UV template. Nice and quick. It's brilliant. So now what I want to do is I want to take this out of here, back into Photoshop. So we'll come out of edit mode. We'll go into document, ZAppling, and I've already set this up so that it'll go straight to my Photoshop. Now ensuring that you're on best when you actually do the ZAppling, you'll get a really good quality normal map. So there's the normal map now. Also, as a bonus, it gives you the Z depth as well. But to be honest, we've already got that anyway when we did the stencil, the black and white stencil. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to merge all these layers together to make sure that we've got them all. I'm just going to drag this across. Now I'm dragging across, holding down Shift, it'll snap exactly into place there. So now what we've got ourselves, if I just turn the diffuse off, we've got ourselves a nice normal map. Now I'm going to call it DDN because that's what the convention is within CryEngine. So, and I like to put ZDDN so I know that it's, well, ZDDN if you're British, that it's come from ZBrush. Right, okay, so now we've got that. So what we can do now is to enhance our texture, we can use a cavity map and a convexity map. So the convexity will be the highlights, the cavity will show the inner dents, i.e. the cavities. The good quick way of doing this is, first I'm going to go up to filter, and if you've got Xnormal, you can get the Xnormal plugin which works with Photoshop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to normalize the normal map first. You might see a slight difference. Normalizing the normal map just keeps everything within 0 to 1 in the integers, so it's perfect for the games engine. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that by holding down Alt and pulling this up like that. And then with this one, I'm going to go to filter again, the Xnormal filter. I'm going to go to normals to cavity, and I'm going to go to EDT. I'm going to update that. Now this is going to give us cavity, and as you can see, there we are. Now I'm going to call that EDT, and I'm going to pull that up to where the diffuse is. Okay, turn that off, create another copy. I'm going to go back to that filter, and I'm going to go back to the Xnormal, normals to cavity, down to EMB this time. And this is going to give us our convexity, so it'll be like the highlights, but to be honest you don't really need them on this texture because it's already got, I've tried this earlier, and to be honest I was very sparing with this EMB. I'll show you in a second. So what we've got now then, so we've got an EMB, we've got an EDT, and we've also got as diffuse. I'm going to just pull that in there, turn that off, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab from my original test this wood, because this was the original wood I used to make the stencil out of. So that's that stencil. Just turn that off. I'm just going to move this down. So that was the original wooden base that I used, and then I turned it grayscale, and that's how it made that stencil that I took into ZBrush. I'm going to grab both of these, I'm going to bring them here. Right, and now what I'm going to do is with the EMB, so that's the highlights, I'm going to put it to screen, and what that will do, that will take out all the darker pixels and just have the highlights. As you can see, it's really strong, and to be honest I don't think it really needs it on this texture. But the EDT, if I multiply that, so we've just got the inner cracks, now we can really see if I go in there, if I turn that, if I turn this on and off, you can really see it kind of gives it a nice sharp crispness to it. But I'm just going to bring that down again. Subtlety is the key. Okay, just turn them off. So now what have we got? We've got as wooden base, we've got our cavity, and we've got the convexity as well, but hardly used really. To be honest, it's hardly used. Now another great trick is if you take this wooden base and I duplicate that, and then I go up to filter again, and I go down to high pass. This is a great way for also sharpening your textures. So keep about a radius of about 1.1, something like that. Go OK, and if I clip that there by pressing Alt and snapping between the two layers, and I put this onto overlay, you can see it sharpens up the image quite nicely. Again, subtlety is the key. So what have we got now? So we've got this image here. Now for me, this red, I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. So I'm gonna create an adjustment layer. I'm gonna clip that next to these, and I'm just gonna bring down the saturation of that just a little bit. I'm not really into the red, because really this is going to be the wood underneath. Okay, and just perhaps bring in a couple of tones. There we go. Right, so we've got a mean average of 112, so it's not too contrasty. It's okay. So we've got that there, and then we can save that. So that'll be saved as the tutorial diff. Now, another thing that I want to do is I want to just shut this down so I don't need that anymore. That was the normal. I want to put some paint over the top. Now this is a great way of doing paint quickly, because it's hard sometimes to try and use clone stamp and try and bring stuff in. So I find the best way is to go straight to the source where there's some paint already over wood. So what I'll do is I'll go up to select, and I'll go to color range, and I'm going to just click on the yellow, and I'm going to just grab this slider, and when I press OK, it's going to select the yellow out of there. So what I can do is I can then drag this across onto here, bring it above these two, and now what we've got is we've got the basis of the paint. So I can flip it this way, kind of like that. Right, and then you can duplicate that. Just keep duplicating it across, moving it around, do a bit of clone stamping, just to give it some variation. Right, so merge those two together. Don't forget to do an offset so that it does tile both ways when you're doing this correctly. And then what I'm also going to do is just double click it into the layer. That'll bring up the layer styles. I'm just going to give it a little drop shadow, just 90 there, and I'm going to give it such a small distance. It's going to be like, I think, give it a distance of 2, very small size. In fact, you could give it a distance of 1, depends on what you're looking for. But now you can see it's starting to look like it's the paint's on top of the actual wood itself. Now when this is all composited and layered together, always name your layers by the way, and when it's composited together, which I'll show you in Marmoset, the normal map will come through the paint and it'll look like it's really actually stuck on there. So again, with the paint you could go in and just overlay some dirt and make it a little bit different, or perhaps even change the colour. Because mine will be black, I can mess around with the levels adjustment. In fact, also give it a hue saturation. So if I give it a hue saturation, I'm just bringing that down like that, give it a levels, and then just try and darken it off, so kind of starting to see that darkish paint coming through there. I'm always using adjustment layers because you don't want to create a really nice paint layer and then start messing around with the levels and you think, oh no, well, I want to go back, and you've lost all your history. So I always use these adjustment layers. Best way of keeping your layers intact, like, because the base layer in effect is untouched. Just got to turn them off, and there it is. So then what I did from there is, so we exported out the normal map. You export out the normal map, you make a specular map, and obviously you've got your diffuse. And then when we put them all together into here, you can see it looks quite nice. If I just bring, so all I've done is just using Marmoset toolbag, I just brought in a plane which is normalized with the UV, so they're all up to the edges. Put in that diffuse texture that we've just created. I've plugged in the normal map that we created from ZBrush, and I've just done a quick speck and gloss. It's really rough. All I've done is just made a black and white image like the stencil and just overlaid it. You want to spend a lot more time doing your specularity, such as this paint, if it's older paint, wouldn't be as shiny, less reflectance. If it's quite new paint, it would have quite a high reflectance. So yeah, so then what you want to do is look at it in different lighting conditions. So in Marmoset, I'm still on Marmoset 1. Santa Claus didn't bring Marmoset 2 unfortunately, but never mind, I'm saving for that one. So just look at it in different lighting situations. So that's Garage, Pisa. I've also created a light just so I could move it across so you can kind of see how that looks. bringing it in and over like that. But as you can see, with that normal map, it actually looks like the paint is actually on top of that, and with that drop shadow it just gives it that little bit of a pop. But like I say, this is just the basics. What you want to do from here then is do quite a bit of overlaying of dirt and perhaps a little bit of green algae and things like that actually rotting into the wood. But this is your great basis then for when we look at that picture. Is I can then just, because it's tiling, I can just map that up and across and down. I mean, even with the paint layer, what you can do is use that on as a vertex blend, which would probably be better, because then you could have it would be more unique on each part of the pieces of wood, which is what I'm going to do. So once I get to that point, I'll do a small development video and show you how I did that. But I hope that's been useful. There's loads more things that you can actually do with ZBrush, but this is one that I find is quite quick for doing a really nice normal map, and making instead of having to sculpt all this wood, it's something quick. Especially if you're in a studio environment, you want to be speedy, you want to get things done, you want to get things into the engine, looking at it, and then you can really go to town and tweak them and make them look top quality. Well, if you've got any questions or queries, just pop me a message under the YouTube. If you want to have a look at my portfolio, it's rpiper.co.uk, and as I say, I've got a CryDev thread going at the moment for this scene, so all the development ideas are on there as well. And I'd like to thank CryDev for putting me on the front page of their website. That's awesome, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'm hoping to give as much back to the 3D community as I possibly can, and hopefully look to get into a new studio this year. So have a great time, guys, and this is Pipes clocking out. Thank you, goodbye.